One thing I love from Nzxt is a new case. They never disappoint. Today we've got the new H6. It comes in a Flow RGB and a standard non-RGB version. You get the core fans with the RGB. Black and white, two different versions available. No elite version at the current time of recording, but I'm sure we'll see one in the future. And certainly a very unique design that I can't wait to show you guys. So let's get it open. So here we have the H6. I don't know if you can tell from that angle, this might look like an H9 to you, but if I turn this now, you'll see those angled fans for the front intake. So instead of having them at the front traditionally, or like at the side, you have a dual chamber case that are at a 45-degree angle. Something that I haven't seen on the case. Does remind me of kind of upside down Y40 from height, where you've got the glass, but this is the intake for the fans instead. You can see, if I just angle that, we have those three fans. On the RGB version, these are the core fans. And then on the standard H6 Flow, you've got the normal Quiet Edition fans there instead. It does support up to a 360mm radiator in the front as well, which is always nice to see. So now let's go around and show you what else the case offers. So generally start at the top, we'll do that for this one as well. This has got a panel that's removable. There's no dust filter on there, but generally you'd have an exhaust out the top anyway, so there's no real need to filter it. Support for up to a 360mm radiator in the top. You can do 280, 240 if you'd rather. Got the back section, which I'll show you all in a minute. So much like the other dual chamber cases, you've got the power supply in the back. We'll take up to a 200mm power supply for this case. Also a drive sled and stuff that I'll show you as well later on. Got room for 120mm rear exhaust. They don't include one, which leads me to believe they might have taken on board the feedback of not liking different fans to the front and then the back. So for example, a lot of the cases have the core fans in the front and then they have a standard airflow fan in the back, which obviously mismatched. So it does leave you the option to put another core fan if you'd like, or something that matches AOO and stuff like that. We've also got 7 expansion brackets on there as well, so your standard amount. On the bottom we've got the 4 feet and we have got some room for an additional 2 120mm fans if you'd like to do any intake from the bottom. So of course on the front we've got that big piece of tempered glass with some protective plastic on there. And then below that we have got the front I/O, so we've got a headset jack, a USB Type-C, this is USB 3.2 Gen 2. And we have 2 USB-A ports, these are USB 3.2 Gen 1. And we have also got our power button, which seems to have a little ring of illumination. You can take the front off for the fans as well. This just simply pulls off like all the other panels, just on push pins, so really easy to take off. Then you can see the 3 pre-installed RGB core fans. Like I mentioned, the RGB Flow comes with the core fans, the F120s. Then if you buy the normal version, it comes with the non-RGB, which is the F120Qs Airflow edition. So there's a thumb screw just to undo, then we've got some push pins. Comes out to about 30 degrees or so, and then you can lift it out. Bit of 3mm tempered glass, I believe that is. Fairly standard. It does have a little bit of a tint to it as well for the black edition, and the white ones are fully clear. So looking into the case, obviously the most immediate thing we see is the intakes for the 3 120mm fans. There is a little bit of an angle to that shroud as well, so it's going to kind of curve the air as it goes throughout the case. Now Nzxt say these fans are angled so it gives the hottest parts of the computer direct airflow, but we'll of course put a system in this as well to actually test it out later on in the video. Motherboard support, we have got up to an 80X, of course we have got that really steep drop off, so I wouldn't recommend putting anything bigger than 80X in this one. There's also some channels for cables to come through, so 24 pin, maybe your graphics cards through that one. There's a couple of cutouts for cables like your EPS 8 pins and things to come through at the top, also any AIO cables that you might have. If you're wondering about depth of AIOs, you could fit around 65mm before you start to hit the motherboard VRMs. Not a case for a push-pull configuration on the AIO, but a standard 30mm Rad and 25mm fans will fit without any problems. To the bottom of the case, there's that space that I said about for the additional 120mm fans if you'd like to put any in. There's also a angled channel for any front panel stuff that you want to bring up from the back of the case. It's also angled, so when you push it through, it should just rise up. So it's going to be nice and easy to push stuff through. So before we go around to the back of the case, I'll just go over the maximum clearances and things we've got. So for our CPU tower, you can do a maximum of 163mm high tower, and then for graphics cards we've got a maximum of 365mm. This is the 4080 Strix, which is one of the biggest cards that you can possibly get at the moment. Plenty of clearance there, so this case can take the biggest of the 40 series cards. Always a good thing to know. I think that's really everything to talk about on the inside. Let's now take off this thumb screw and back panel. So we've got some accessories in the box here, but I think we're actually going to have to take out this hard drive cage to be able to get to those. Of course you don't have to use this mount if you don't want to. This is where you have your 3.5-inch drive inside, and then you've also got 2.5-inch drive mounts on the top of it there. So it's all contained in one little package. So we've got some zip ties in the top, and then we've got all of our different screws. These are some chunky ones. These are going to go for the bottom mounted fans. If you want to go and install any, you're going to have to go through those grommets, so that's why they're extra long fan screws. Then you've got all your standard ones for any additional fans you want to put in, your motherboard and stuff like that as well. We've got all of our fan cables and things on the left hand side. Now I've just undone these cables to talk about these in a bit more depth, because a lot of people that watch the H5 Flow and the H7 Flow were really confused about how they all work. So these fans by default are 3-pin, but you do get an adapter in the box already installed, so that will go to one 4-pin for PWM control. So you just plug that into one of the motherboard headers. Then the system will allow these fans to ramp down when the system is under low load, turn up when it's under high load. And then if you have the RGB edition of the case, these fans are a proprietary connector by standard, but they have an adapter included which turns them all onto one 5-volt adjustable header. So you just plug that into the motherboard, download the software for your specific motherboard model as well. So say Aorus, Gigabyte, you've got ASUS, and then MSI, blah, 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 etc, etc. Get the piece of software that's relevant for your motherboard, then you'll be able to control all the RGB of the fans within that. So hopefully that's a little bit clearer, because a lot of people were confused the fact that it said on the website that these are 3-pin fans, but it does include an adapter, and I know Nzxt are going to update the website so it's a little bit more clear. Right, so fans aside, what else have we got in here? We've got the front panel stuff down here. Let's have a look at this. It's going to be the standard kind of stuff. So we've got USB Type-C, USB 3 header, got our HD audio, and there's also all the front panel stuff on one block. I think Nzxt were the first to do this all on one, but do like to see it. Certainly a lot easier than individual pins. They can just be really tedious. So we've got our PSU support right in the middle, and of course you've got all this space down below if you're not going to use the hard drives, and above as well for any cabling. Loads of tie down points for zip ties and things like that, and you have got some Velcro ones built in already. I think for the people that aren't going to use the hard drive bays, they're certainly going to use this for cables and things, because if you're using a standard ATX power supply, you're going to have a lot of spare cable room, and obviously you're not going to want to go straight through and then have all the excess on the other side. So we'll be coming down and around, gathering all the cables up there, then doing the shortest runs possible to like your EPS, and then round to 24-pin and things like that. So I now have my system all built up. This is the 5800X3D build that I did on the channel quite a while ago, but I kept that as a CPU cooler test rig. It's the same equipment, just transplanted into this case, with the addition of the core fan in the back, and obviously the front ones are different because they're the ones that come with it. All of the fans are running at 100%. It's the same as when I tested the ASUS TUF LC2. This is 0.3 degrees warmer, with taking into account the room delta, than running an AIO, and it's the Noctua U12S, I believe. Pretty much the limit on what you can fit with air coolers as well, so just, you know, don't go for an HD15. In this case it's not going to fit, but thermal wise it is performing very well. Obviously Nzxt did say that the angle helps cool the hot components. I don't have like the scientific things to be able to validate that, unfortunately, and nor the time, because I'm filming this the night before release, but it's certainly keeping the components cool, even though the fans are running at 100%. But like I said, that's across the board from whatever I test. They do push a lot of air, and I was actually testing on the other side of this desk and getting quite cool. Before I was running the longer tests and things like that, when I had the side off, obviously needed to peel off all of the plastic off the glass and stuff as well, and yeah, I was actually getting quite nippy over there. So they certainly do move a lot of air. They are maximum 1300 RPM fans. If you're wondering specifically, the high temperature was a 76.3, room delta was 19 degrees. In terms of building in it, that was very, you know, straightforward. Didn't have any problems there. I do like the cable management channels in the back. You can see the cutout for like the EPS connectors. You can put all the cables above that and Velcro them in, which is what I did. I put a bit of B-roll over the screen so you can actually see that, but really easy to work in. All of the connectors, like I said, putting them through the front with that 45-degree thing I said would make it easy, and it did. You just push it through, go straight up, plug them in, and that's all good to go. The only one that was a little bit tricky was my USB 3 header, because it's an older board. It's at the bottom, so I had to go out from where the additional fans could be put in and loop it back round. I didn't want to go too tight on that cable and crimp it, so that's a little bit of a wider kind of connection, but you probably won't have that problem because most of the modern boards have got connectors on the sides. Pricing wise, let's get on to that. So this one is the RGB version. It's going to retail for £119. Now, I initially saw this and was pleasantly surprised at that price. The non-RGB is going to be 99, so even cheaper. That's, I think, a really good price for what you get included. The fans actually push more air with the cheaper version as well than the core, so just something to bear in mind there. But if you were to say to me this was going to be 149, for example, I'd say that's a little bit too expensive, especially as you can get something, if you want something unique like the Y40 from Height, that's around the same price. And this obviously has the angled fans rather than angled glass, but in terms of engineering and material cost, there's certainly more in the Height Y60 than this one. But I think £119 is a great price for this case, and it's certainly something that I'd be willing to pay if I was to build myself a system, especially with some higher end parts in it. So I think, yeah, fairly reasonable for the price, especially with the fans you get included. And I like that they're not including just a basic one in the back. You can put whatever you fancy, so it all matches. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. If there's anything else you want to know, then do let me know in the comments box and I'll get back to you. I have filmed this a couple of times because I've been stumbling over my words and trying to get as much information as I can out before I have to edit this in the morning. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Any more questions, like I said, let me know down below. Links are in the description box if you want to pick one up. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to Nzxt for sending this out for me to look at, and I'll see you all in the next one.